Hey everyone, thank you for joining us for our next session. Prepare for your fabric exam day and open Q&A. My name's Anna. I'm an event planner for Reactor, joining you from Redmond, Washington. Before we start, I do have some quick housekeeping. Please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, we ask that you please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional and on topic. Keep an eye on that chat. We'll be dropping helpful links and checking for questions for our moderators to answer. Our session is being recorded. It will be available to view on demand right here on the Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel. With that, I'd love to turn it over to our presenters for today. Brian and Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, we're ready. We're live.
Hey, let's go.
Perfect. Let's go. So, Steph, how are you feeling today? Are you ready?
Great. Yes. Always ready to talk about exam day.
Oh, yeah. Exams are the best, right?
Everybody loves taking an exam, right?
We love them.
We're going to make it as painless as possible.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And we're also here to help today because if you are lucky enough, your live questions will be dropped at the front stage, at this stage, and then we will ask them. We will answer them live as we go along. So let's get rolling. I think the first slide is talking about me. It's me. I'm Brian. I'm from Denmark. As many of the presenters here at the Reactor, I'm also a Microsoft Data Platform MVP, but I like to present myself as a data geek driving a motorcycle. So that's me, more or less. I love data, as we all do. What about you, Steph?
Yes. Okay. So I'm Stephanie Bruno, also a data platform MVP. I also have my personal website on here, datawitches.com. That's this right here, Data Witches. You can find some helpful tools on there, like a fabric pricing calculator. Also, I am not from Denmark. I am in the US. I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania today. So we are joining you from very different time zones. I also love data and also ride motorcycles. So,
What?
Brian and I are here together. I mean,
What?
old friends, motorcycle riders. Here we go.
One big family.
One big data motorcycle geek family.
Oh, the data motorcycle team. I like that.
All right. So let's talk about what to expect today, Brian.
Oh, yeah. It's very, very important because this is Ask Me Anything. So I think it's very, very important to be nice to our moderators because they are doing a big job, a huge job. They are trying to answer all your questions. But at least if not asking a question, just say hi. Just make yourself available, say hi, tell them where you're from, just a country if you don't want to mention the city, and just say hi and be interactive in the chat. It's fine if you don't want to ask questions, but just say hi and be there. So I think that's important. And of course, if you have questions, go ahead and write them. There are no dumb questions. Don't hold back. Put in your questions, and our moderators, they will do their best to answer them. I guess.
Yes,
I hope
absolutely.
so. I know they will. So.
And we have great moderators. So our moderators today for live only, because this is recorded. So for those of you here live, you do get the benefit of their expertise. So we have Chris and Drizzle here, experts, also data platform MVPs. So ask all your questions. This is really one of the best parts of the live format of this this experience because we can all learn from each other. We can all help each other. And you've got these awesome moderators. So thank you so much to the moderators for being here today and answering all of our questions.
Yeah. And hey, be nice to them, okay?
Be nice to them and thank them. Yes,
exactly.
All right. So Brian, what is this part of? What is this series?
Oh, yeah, sure. There was just an APEC region session this morning with 4 other people. And this is the second of Ask Me Anything Q&A. And the next couple of days, you will get the same possibilities to actually ask questions and get them answered. I'm not sure if this is a Spanish, Portuguese, something. I'm not sure about the language here on May 22nd in 2 days, and the same for May 28th. And June 3. But at least June 5, we are back in American spoken languages for another Q&A round. So
Hey, Brian,
the
that's
next
going to
couple
be
of
in
weeks is
Spanish.
only Q&A. So
That'll be
Portuguese and
Spanish.
Spanish. Oh, really? I thought the May 28 looked Portuguese to me.
okay, yeah, Spanish, Portuguese, and then yeah. Oh, PT might be Portuguese. I get that. Got it. So, but this is your opportunity just to if there was something you missed or something you would like to ask or something, then come back and ask that question, and then they will be answered for you. So keep engaged, I guess.
Yes. Okay. And then, so also, what are we here for? We're all trying to prepare for these exams, right? So fortunately, we can get free certification exam vouchers. So you can see this AKA link on the bottom here, aka.ms/GC/DP700, and we can get 100% discount on the exam. But you have to enter the sweepstakes by May 28th. So that's coming up here, but it's worth it. You should definitely enter the sweepstakes so that you can win a chance for your free exam voucher.
Yeah, and perhaps a small note here. May 28th is actually, I think it's US Western time or something. It's not European time or New Zealand time. I think it's Western US time. So if you're in Europe, you have a couple of hours after midnight to actually sign up. So
It's definitely worth it.
yeah.
Okay, moving on. So how do we prepare? Let's get into some details on what we're going to cover today. We're talking exam prep, and we're going to have plenty of time for live Q&A. Ask your questions anytime. You don't have to save them for the end. But if you do want to have some live Q&A at the end, you can save them for the end as well. Whatever you want to do. So what are we going to do today? We are going to cover why it's worth it to get certified, how to prepare, understanding the exam format and scoring. We'll share some tips and tricks for exam day, and then we will have our Q&A time. So let's just start with the why, Brian. Why should we even get certified?
Oh, yeah. For me, at least, if I would take the personal angle here, then I'm a consultant, so I live by sharing my knowledge. And consultants, we need to be, have our credentials ready for clients when they ask, hey, does he know what he's talking about? And yes, we do. We have a certification we can bring and tell the people, hey, look at this. I am certified in what I'm talking about. So it is a part of getting recognized at that we know what we're talking about. We know that we can do the stuff that we tell people that we can do, and also perhaps, but not guaranteed, to get rewarded and promoted, because it might be on the, what you call that, development plan of your personal self to get to the new position or to the advancing position you have in your organization. So, but I think if we remove all the professional things, then I think it's a huge effort to actually feel that you have accomplished something, that now you're done. Now you have learned enough to get certified. And every time I get a certification, I'm like, that's it. Now I'm done. Now I know I can do this, and I know I'm proficient enough to actually do it in my projects, and also help my clients or the internal organization that I work in to be better with what we're doing in the Microsoft Data Platform sphere of knowledge. So
yeah, I totally agree with you. And for me, maybe I haven't had an opportunity to work in practice on every aspect of what's covered in an exam, and I just want to learn it. So if I don't know where to start, right, it's really helpful because these study guides can give me an idea of what's really important to learn.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And also the I think now we are talking about the DP700 certification here, and also the DP600 around Fabric, and this is a market what do you call that, study where they saw that these numbers got these outputs. I know that you can read all of you, so I won't read them out loud, but just know that once you have your certification in house and on your credentials, then you have huge possibility to get more money, more salary, to get a higher salary, to get promoted, and actually to get the more difficult tasks that you are asking for, because now you can prove to your collaborators that, hey, I know this stuff. And I'm very curious about the bottom right one, where we have 35% say they are more influential during cloud deployments. I think that's a different angle to it, because once you have your certifications, you have perhaps a possibility to ask the right questions, or to answer some of them yourself, and then you can influence the way that cloud is being deployed and worked with and handled in your organization. So
Totally agreed. I think it can help build confidence too, which then, of course, can help you be more influential in
Exactly.
these conversations.
Exactly.
And just to add on to this, there is a data skills shortage, right? So we all know that every organization needs data. It's hard to keep up. It's hard for organizations to keep up with the skills needed to deal with all this data. Data roles pay well, and analytics is central to every business. It's not like there are certain types of businesses that need to use data, right? So you're going to be more in demand when you have these certifications and skills.
Yeah, exactly. And I see a trend, I saw this a few years back, where the data team inside an organization is at the same level of commodity as the finance team is, because you can't run a business without your financial statements, all that kind of stuff. And it has actually come to the same thing around data. You can't run your business without your data estate. So from my perspective, then the data and the finance is now a needed commodity in every organization. And as you say, Steph, it is, we can't find enough skills. So go ahead and get that certification in-house and start working with it. So
I mean, you all know it's valuable. That's why you're here, right? So we're not going to spend too much time on these slides. And then also, let's just quickly talk about what is Fabric. We actually, I just want to, this is kind of like that moment when you get on an airplane and the flight attendant says, okay, this is the flight to San Francisco. If you're not going to San Francisco, get off the plane now. We are discussing Fabric. So just to make sure you are here for the right tool to be learning here for this exam, we're talking about Microsoft Fabric.
We are indeed. Microsoft Fabric, the one-stop software as a service platform that brings data to life. So
love it. Sounds like you've got that memorized, Brian.
I didn't. I just figured that one out. So yeah, sometimes you're lucky.
So now we know what we're here for: the flight to Fabric. Just kidding, just Fabric. And certifications, and we know why we want to do that. So how do we prepare?
Ooh, yeah. I think it's crucial to know that, yes, you can read a lot and you can study a lot and you can do all the test things, and we'll get through that in just a second. But I think it's also crucial to know that you need hands-on experience to get certified, because some of the questions are not, the answers to them are not findable on Microsoft Learn. You need to have hands-on experience to answer those questions. So preparation is, I think, I can't remember the next slide. So let me just guess.
Oh, shoot.
Okay, got it. Yeah, seriously, got it. It's fine. So yes, at least the Microsoft Learn has a great deal of modules you can go through. There's the expert-led exam things on YouTube. They can also be found on Microsoft Learn. But I think it's also crucial that you try it out, you do all the errors, you try to do something that doesn't work, and then you figure out how it actually works. Get your hands, I think in Danish we like to say get your hands dirty, because try it out, figure out what doesn't work, and figure out how to fix it. Because that way you learn way more than just reading a blog post or watching a video. Now I'm talking our own session right now down, but please go ahead and try it out yourself. And as okay, the representative right there. Not everything is covered in the Learn modules exactly. So even though you might know the Microsoft Learn by heart and you have a sticky brain, you need hands-on experience and to know all the quirky corners around Fabric to actually pass that exam.
And to add on that, I know that when I go through the Learn tutorials, you know how at the end of the tutorial, a lot of times there's like a short little like 3-question quiz to check, like a knowledge check.
Yeah.
Those are generally much easier questions than you'll encounter on the exam.
Oh,
So if you go through those and you're like, oh great, I nailed it on all of those. Just know that the ones on the exam will probably be a little bit more challenging.
Oh yes, oh yes. I can double that. So yeah.
Yes.
I totally agree. And also the environment around the exam, we'll talk about that in just a minute, is also different than many people are used to. So.
Yeah. But definitely go through all the modules. They're very good. They're very helpful.
Yes.
They're going to give you a great basis, but again, not enough. So what else can we do?
What else can we do?
Well, we can review the exam study guide. So I will show you this in just a minute.
Okay.
I've got a few resources for you here, but the study guide is going to give us the detailed breakdown of what subjects we can expect to see on the exam. So again, this is, you're going to notice that maybe there are some things on the study guide that weren't covered in all the Learn modules. So this is when it's time to go and look on Learn or just in the documentation and with community resources to see what else you need to learn. So again, a hot tip here, there are great study resources from some community experts like Pragati, Nicola, Andy, Kevin, and Shabnam. And some of these links up here on the right, these aka.ms links, these have links to some of their content. So it's got links to some of this community content for you. So you can look up some of these people and you can also just go to these AKA links at the top. But now let me just show you what the study guide actually looks like. So let me pull that up on my screen really quickly. If I can find the right window here. Okay. Yeah. So when you go to the study guide, you can just, look for you can search for study guide for DP 700 exam. You can see my screen. Yes.
Stephanie,
Okay.
it might be me, but can you zoom just a tiny inch? My glasses is not
Thank
zooming.
you. Yes, you're absolutely right. Thank you for that
Perfect.
reminder. Okay. All right. So you can see on the left, you've got all these study guides, but for the DP 700, for example, this is a great place to just look at the details. So first of all, you can make sure you have your Learn profile. You can understand about the exam scoring. There's an exam sandbox, so you can get kind of a look and feel of what to expect once you're actually taking it. You can request accommodations if you need them, and there is a practice assessment. Now, if you go down a little bit below, then you get to start seeing what are the skills measured in the exam. This is where you want to make sure that you have some experience and you've gone through all of this. So we can see that what our audience profile is, what we're going to be doing, ingesting and transforming, securing and managing, and monitoring and optimizing. If we go down a little further, we can actually even see the percentage of questions to expect on the exam for each of these categories, these skills, and then even some detail on exactly what we should be able to do. So this is a fantastic resource for understanding what you need to know to prepare yourself for the exam.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Perhaps a private question or personal question, but are there any of these areas where you feel you need to learn more?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? It's your favorite. It's the real time, the KQL.
Oh, yeah, that's my favorite.
I know that's your favorite. So that's for me what I feel like I need to learn a little bit more about.
Okay.
The other thing I wanted to share on here is we have this mention of Shabnam Watson down here on the slide. She has built this great exam sort of prep tracker that she has shared on her GitHub page. And I believe that her link is also shared in that community resources one. Mm-hmm. But you can go here and she's got an Excel file that you can download and a PBIX file that you can download, and you can kind of track what you think you have already learned and you can kind of get a percentage of, where you are, and you kind of see how ready you are.
Nice.
So yeah, it's a really nice tracker, and I can even show you what it looks like. So you can fill out the spreadsheet, you update the PBIX file with the location where you've saved it, and then you'll get this nice report that's going to show you of the skills measured, how many have you studied. So if you really like to keep track of things, if you're a data person, you might actually like to go and download this from ShopNum's GitHub page, so you can use this to track your preparation.
Oh, I like that.
Cool, right? Yeah.
I like that.
So this is, yeah. So now this is going to show us, what we need to study, and also use some community resources from people who have been trying to help us prepare, right? And then finally, we can practice, right, Brian?
Oh yeah. I think one of the crucial things here is to also practice the questions, because the questions and the wordings inside the questions and the sentence constructions and the way that Microsoft actually asks those questions, they can be quite challenging and new to people. So practice exams and practice assessments is actually extremely good. But as you just said, Steph, then these questions that you get on the practice exam is not at the same level as the ones in the exam. So if you ace them, then you will still have to step up on quality and answering, scoring, all that kind of stuff to actually pass the exam. So if we just quickly switch over to my screen, then you will see that I've opened up the practice assessment for exam DP700, so the one we're actually talking about now. And in any practice assessment, you have a bank of 50 questions, or at least you are presented with 50 questions, because we actually don't know the amount of questions we got behind this. It can be 100, it can be 200, we don't know. But you get a randomized set of 50 questions. And then you can begin to answer these questions and get a scoring. So if this is just question 1 for me, I just started. So should we try it out, Steph, together and see if we can get this right? So your organization is transitioning to a data mesh architecture using Microsoft Fabric. You are responsible for organizing data into domains. Okay, domains. Okay. You need to configure settings for independent management of rules and restrictions by each business unit. What should you do? Uh-oh. Do you dare to try answer this one?
Well, let's see. What was that last question? Or we need to configure settings. Okay.
Yeah.
That probably tells me that I probably need to, if I want independent management, I'm thinking domains need to be able to do some settings. So I'm going to guess the bottom. What do you think?
The bottom one. So delegate tenants level settings to domains. So assign workspaces to multiple domains. That makes sense? No, because I don't think so, because we are talking about that each organization unit needs to handle things that themselves. And domain-specific sensitivity labels, we're not even talking about sensitivity labels in this question, so that can't be that one either. And create workspaces with shared governance settings. No, they can't be shared because they need independent management rules. So I totally get it. Let's see if that's correct. Yes. And then you can read the answer why. So good call, Steph. And then we can just continue to the next. We won't do question 2, but just know that you have now the opportunity to actually do 50 questions. And when you're done, you can get a score of how you did. And if I'm not mistaken, you also get a score in all the 4 categories on how you need to develop yourself, in which areas do you need to study more. So these are a good marker on where you need to study. And if you ace these at 100% answering rate, then you are on a very, very good track to actually pass that exam. I think we need to go back to your slides now, Steph, if I'm not mistaken, because we have some tips and tricks for the actual certification, right?
Yes, definitely. Okay, so I think we're sharing me. Yep. Okay. So first thing on here is we're talking about the practice assessment. And now the second thing is familiarize yourself with Learn, because you can use it in the exam. And here we go. This is what it kind of looks like. So when you use Learn, though, the first time I took an exam with Learn, I thought, oh, great, I'll be able to find anything I don't know. But what I wasn't familiar with is that I didn't have a search engine to be able to look for what I wanted, first of all, A. And I didn't really have a bunch of experience navigating Learn without starting with a search engine. So at first I just got kind of stumped, like, oh my gosh, how do I even find what I'm looking for? So practice using Learn without a search engine. So
Yes.
if you have a question, you're trying to figure something out, just navigate. That's what you need to do. The second area where I got kind of stung is that on some of those Learn pages, there's a lot. They're very long, right? There's a lot of
Oh yeah.
scrolling.
Oh
You
yeah.
can't use Control F though for a keyword.
No.
So it can eat up a lot of your time. And also, I feel like it can make you second guess yourself. So just use it sparingly would be my suggestion for Learn. It is helpful. It definitely helped me with a few questions. But I've definitely talked to people who said it actually made them get to the end or not get to the end in time. They ran out of time before they were able to answer all the questions. So it's a great resource. Take advantage of it. But my biggest tip for this one is practice in advance without search engine or Control F.
Oh yeah, and also the fact that I like the tip you give out, that don't spend too much time on Learn at the exam. Do it before the exam, so you know the structure, you know how it works, you know how to find stuff. If you just if you have a topic, and then you know what to click on the website in order to find that specific topic, because search options are not as you are used to when you have just a browser and you can search. It is a browser though, but it is very, very limited on functionality, so you can only use Microsoft Learn. So yes, and you can very quickly go down a rabbit hole and begin to read all the documentation, and then you will the clock still ticks on your exam time. So yeah, sure, good course there, Steph. I like that.
I mean, I'm sharing that from personal experience.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
lesson learned. So
Yeah.
I should share that with everybody. Okay, so now we've talked about how to prepare. If you have not taken an exam yet, let's talk about what to expect when it's time to actually take it. What is the format? What's the scoring?
Yes.
So the basics of the exam, we will get 60 questions. Some are worth more than 1 point. We don't know which ones are worth more than 1 point. Make sure you answer all of the questions, because there's not a negative for getting a question wrong. So it doesn't hurt to guess. I mean, hopefully you'll know the answer, but it doesn't hurt to guess. So make sure you answer all the questions.
Oh, sorry.
No, go.
There is a tiny thing and also a tip here, because you don't know which questions it's worth more than 1 point, but there is a small teller on some of the questions, because some of the questions in the last line, you will see each correct answer is worth 1 point. So some of the questions actually tell how many points you can get, and some of them don't. So, and we are reaching for 700 points here. So yeah.
Yes, right, exactly. 700 points, but we don't know the details. We don't, for example, there will be a case study, but we don't know how much that's weighted versus all of the other questions. So you just want to try to do your best on absolutely everything and don't leave anything unanswered.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So how much time do you have? 180 minutes, 150 for the questions, 30 for miscellaneous. Make sure that you give yourself extra time in the beginning if you're doing it remotely. So if you schedule an in-person exam, you're going to get there, you're going to go in, you're going to take it. But if you're doing it from home, you have to wait for a moderator to be ready. They have to validate your setup. So just give yourself plenty of time. Don't try to, end a meeting and then think that you're going to start your exam right away. Give yourself enough time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think the interpretation of because if you have a physical in-person testing facility, then the interpretation of the rules and regulations around how that facility should be managed and the security there can be interpreted differently, because I've tried an in-person test here in Denmark, and I've also tried one in Germany. Without telling who it was and where I did, I just can tell you that one of them had a personal scanner as you have in the airport. I had to go through that in order to be scanned, that I didn't bring any things that I could cheat with. The other one had a body scanner, a manual one, but you will be searched for devices like your phone or laptop or something, because you are not allowed to bring your own stuff to that exam.
Yes, good call out. Yeah. So, and then if you're doing it not at a facility, there's just a little bit more time spent having to verify that your environment is meets the requirements.
Yep.
All right, and then continuing on with format. So it's not just multiple choice questions. There are these other types of questions that you can have, like building a list. So you'll drag things over, etc. And then, as we mentioned, case studies. So this is more like, I always find these kind of intimidating myself, just because there's a lot to remember, so you have to kind of go back. There's multiple questions. So if you do get it at the end, sometimes it can be the beginning, sometimes it can be the end. You don't really know what you're going to get. Just make sure you save enough time for it.
Yes. And there's perhaps a tiny trick for case studies, because I work with junior consultants, and they ask me, hey, can you help me with tips and tricks for the case studies? I said, yes, sure. Read the questions first and then go ahead and find the answer in the documents, because the case studies can be quite long to read from end to end. Go ahead and read the first question, then try to figure out and think, where might that answer be findable? That might be more effective than reading the entire case study and then answering the questions. But again, it's up to you. If you read extremely fast and you can remember everything you read, then read the case study and answer the questions. But if you are like me, you forget 5 minutes after you read something, then go ahead, read the question and then find the answer.
Yeah, I think that's a good tip. That's a great tip. I will use that next time. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. And then, okay. So Brian, how are the exams scored?
Yeah. Okay. So an exam consists of a total of 1,000 points. And those 1,000 points are scattered around on not at random, but you don't know each question's possible points. You can get perhaps one question is worth 1 point and one question is worth 5 points. And the question for 5 points, you can also perhaps, if you don't get the entire question right, but you get some of it right, then perhaps you get 3 points. So at least you need to collect 700 points, and it is just a linear scale. So, and it's not 70%. You don't have to get 70% of the questions right. You need to collect 700 points. And there are no grade A or grade A plus or grade C or grade F or something. It's just pass and no pass. So it's binary. If you get 700 points, you pass. That's fine. And you pass at the same level as a person getting 999 points. They still get a pass. So 700 points is quite enough. And it is all based on the skills of the target audience. I think the target audience here is keywords, because it's very important to read the target audience on the exam documentation of Microsoft Learn, because some people who are used to working with Power BI, they might be surprised if they go into the DB700, because DB700 is everything about Fabric. It can also be pipelines, real-time intelligence, custom query language, PySpark, governance, security, all that kind of stuff that, as a Power BI report developer and semantic model DAX guru, you might be, hey, I don't know this. So please read the target audience, and please read the
guide.
Yeah. Thank you. And I think I don't know the real schedule here, but all exams are updated. It might be every half year, every 3 months, but all exams are updated. New questions are added and old questions are removed, because the platform moves towards a more mature state every day. And so does the exams. So the exams, you might get a question that you are the last one to get, and then for future exams that are discarded, removed, killed, so no one will get that question later on. So just for your information, you can't share questions with your peers, because that's just the way it is. I just saw we got a question on the text. I'll just go through the last bullet and then we can take that question on screen. Okay, so just a guess is also good, because you can't get points removed from your score. You can only get points added. So if you get a wrong answer, that's just 0 points, not -2 points. And mostly go with your gut. That has gotten me to pass a few exams. So first guess might actually be the right one. And yes, normally you can go back and forth between questions, but sometimes I haven't seen this all the times, but sometimes you get a section where you get first a white pop-up saying, hey, now you enter a section where you can't go back to revisit your question that you just did. So bear in mind that you also get that case. Then that might stress you a bit, but it's quite fine. It's quite fine. And as we said, some questions are worth than more than 1 point. And the most important thing, answer every question. Don't skip a question and don't answer it, because what could worst be? You get 0 points, and the best you get 5 points. So please go ahead and answer all the questions. Should we take that question on screen? Can we put it on screen, someone? Or else we can read it out loud, right?
Yeah, and I actually don't know the answer to this one.
Can I also use external monitor with the laptop? What would give more text from document page and keep the test on laptop smaller screen? That's actually a good question. This is for the test that you do at home, the proctored exam. Proctored exam is being done with your webcam on and your microphone on, and you can only have one screen. You can only have one screen. You can't have an external screen. You can only have the screen that are primary on your laptop if you have a laptop screen. If you have a stationary, a big one desktop, then of course you can have the big screen, but you can only have one screen and you are not allowed to have an external monitor. If you have an external monitor connected to your laptop, you can only have one of them turned on. I have done exams where I had the secondary screen plugged in and my laptop was closed. And the way that they test that is you move your webcam around in the room where you are, and one of the last images you do is to actually show them your laptop and your keyboard and your desk area. And they might ask you to move the plant or move some of these, I don't know, things around, so they see it's not a scene that you have set up. It's actually a room that you're in. So only one screen allowed. And if that's the external screen, that's fine. Then you need to close off the laptop screen. That was a long answer to a short question. Sorry, but yeah.
You put a lot of other important information in there too, so yeah, it was helpful.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
Perhaps the pro tip there. The pro tip. So
yes.
Questions for review. When you answer a question, you have a small tick mark saying mark for review. Use that if you are uncertain of your question, but don't use it with caution. I have actually gotten feedback from attendees trying to do the exam, and then they marked like half of the question for review, and then they get like, I don't have time for review. No, because you marked too many. Only mark the ones that you are very, very, very insecure about. Then go back to bullet number 2 on the right-hand side. Go with your gut. Go with your gut is typically the right answer. If you're really, really unsure, then mark it for review, because when you have ended your first run of the exam of all the questions, you have a possibility to go back and review the ones you have marked with mark for review. So 5 or 6 questions, I would say maximum. It's not a rule. It's just my experience.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one too. I have definitely been guilty of marking too many for review before and then being overwhelmed when I go back.
It happens. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, so what can you expect on exam day? So first, you have to verify your identity and get your exam unlocked. And if you are, this is the same, whether you are going in person or you're doing it remotely. It's just that with remotely, like Brian said, there's going to be a lot more time having to prove what's on your computer, what's on your desk, what's in the room. You just a little bit more setup time. Then you'll agree to the NDA. They'll go ahead, you'll read the instructions. There's going to be a survey, take the exam. And then here you go, you can review questions that you want to revisit, but remember that you can't there are breaks in the exam where you can't go back prior to those. So for example, like I think the case study, if you have the case study in the beginning and then you move on to the next one, at least in my experience, I wasn't able to go back to the case study once I moved on. So just keep that in mind. Don't be surprised. You'll submit the exam for scoring. You can provide comments about anything. So if there was a question that you felt like, you know what, I think this was worded weirdly, those you can put that in the comments. It can be helpful. And then you can receive your hopefully passing results and celebrate. You will find out right away. If it's not a beta exam, you'll get your result right away, and then hopefully you'll get to go celebrate. And if not, then you can always try again.
Yeah.
So, you know, don't, if it doesn't work out the first time you try, don't beat yourself up. You can definitely, you know, you'll have more experience now and you can go take it again. One tip is take a screenshot of the results just to make sure that, you know, if you have passed, you want to make sure that you've got that proof there. Not that I know of anybody who's ever needed it, but, you know, it just gives you a little sense of security. So do take a screenshot of the result.
Oh yeah. And in some places, if you go to a physical test facility, you actually get a printout of your score, and then you can use that to put it in a frame and put it on your wall and say, "Hey, I passed this one." One small mark or comment on the survey. The survey before the exam. The survey is not a part of the exam. It's just the way that Microsoft does the statistics on who you are, the passing score for whoever you were during that survey. So the survey is only questions, and they are not marked as a part of the exam. Just know that that's just the way it is. They will ask you how old you are, how you see yourself, how proficient you see yourself, how many years you have worked in the area, all that kind of stuff. So it's just standardized cohort analytics on who is actually taking these exams. So
good call out. Thank you for that. Okay. Oh, what was that? Do we have a question?
Yeah, we have a question actually from, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing this incorrectly, from Bharat. How many months of preparation do you suggest for people who are professionals? I guess most of us are, yeah, and can therefore only study on a part-time basis. Oh, that's a good question.
Well, it is a good question.
We all learn in different paces, right? And some people only need to read things once and then they understand it. But I would say that the important part of actually having hands-on experience in the platform, if you're doing that full-time, then I would say within 3 months you should have found the areas where the questions are being asked. If you're doing that part-time and you study, if you don't use it in your full-time job and you study on a Fabric platform just part-time, I would say, and this is just a personal opinion, I would say 6 months or something. What about you, Steph?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, so it depends on, you know, what type of professional you are and what type of work you're doing. If you're working in Fabric every day, you're definitely going to need less study time than, you know, if you're working on a different platform and you're just trying to figure out Fabric, you know, on the side. So it just depends on what your experience is. But I really think that this study guide is your go-to. This is going to show you what areas maybe you have not worked on and that you need to spend more time preparing for.
Yes.
So like all answers, it depends, right? It depends on your experience.
Yeah, exactly. So now we have went through all the small tips and tricks for when you're going through the exam, but before the exam and all the things you are going through at the exam and then afterwards, because there's also some aftermath when you have done the exam. We have summarized those here, so at least download the skills outline and practice the skills listed, because these are the ones you will get questions to. If a skill is not listed on the study guide, you won't have questions on that skill. The learning paths, the ones you mentioned, Steph, where you went through all the learning path and you get 3 questions at the end for the knowledge check. Go through those, even though the level is not at the same level of difficulty as you will get from the real exam, and get yourself knowledgeable with the documentation from Microsoft, read the Microsoft blogs. You can also subscribe to newsletters from Microsoft on Microsoft Fabric. I get that. Every time a Microsoft Fabric blog post is being released, I get an email so I can read it in the morning. That's great. So I can try, even though it's almost impossible, but I can try to be on top of what's happening inside Microsoft Fabric. Because if it's happening in Microsoft Fabric and it's out of preview features in Fabric, it can be a part of the questions next time. And then, of course, as we mentioned, ask other people's if they have done it, and if they have any tips or tricks on how to pass the exam, or just tips and tricks on how to do the exam. I'm not natively speaking English, so I'm unsure of what they mean by schedule the exam as a forcing function. Can you help me with this?
Well, yeah. If you have it scheduled, you're going to feel like you have to prepare and get ready. Whereas if you wait to schedule it until you're ready, it might, you might wait too long. You might wait forever. So if you schedule it, you're going to feel obligated to prepare.
Yeah, and I think that loops us back to, remember, you have a lot of free exam vouchers, and that's May 28th, and you'll need to sign up. You don't have to do it before May 28th. You just have to sign up before May 28th. So, yeah.
And here is that link if you need it again.
Perfectly transitioned.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah, this QR code will transition you directly to that voucher, and you just have to book it before May 28th. You don't have to pass it before May 28th. That's important. Yeah. So book your exam, get the 2-star certification, and be proud of it, because if you have 700 points, then you pass the exam.
That's right. Okay. And then so I can come back here in a second, but also just a reminder, if you want to join any of these other ones, they're coming up in a few days. But then I think what I'll do is it's time for any more questions. So I'm just going to go back in case you want to keep this link up here so that you can get your voucher. But do we have any more questions for answering live, or did everything get answered in the chat? I don't see any, so
not yet.
I guess
it might be the moderators trying to figure out the best question that we could answer live here on stage right now. But
yes, yeah. So I think go forth. I know I feel like we kind of. I hope we didn't scare people too much about the level of questions. I just want to make sure that people are prepared. So these are the best resources that we know of to prepare for these exams. They've definitely worked for us. So you can always go back and look at these links. And number one, the study guide, because that tells you all the skills, right? Number two, the community resources. Take the practice exam. These are all the best ones I can think of.
Actually, I have a question for you, Steph. Perhaps I'm cheating a bit, because some are communicating to us on the chat, but I'll answer you. But I'll ask you this question: should I go for DB600 or DB700?
Oh, that's a great question. So 600, like you said, I feel like if you have more of a Power BI background, that's the analyst engineer one. I can't remember the official name, but that's the analyst one. So you're going to have Power BI questions on there. There's going to be questions about Power Query, DAX, modeling, things like that. What you're not going to see on the 600, unless something has changed, correct me if I'm wrong, is the real time, right? You're not going to have KQL on there?
No.
I don't think so, right? Yeah. Less Spark, but there might be some. So there is some overlap between the two exams. But now the 700, this is more the data engineer, right? Yeah. There's not going to be Power BI on there. So for me, that's kind of the big differentiator. Is 700 is more data engineer, 600 is more analyst, but there is overlap.
There's overlap, because even though you say you won't get any real-time things, you will still have to know the real-time hub in DB600, because you are ingesting data, and to ingest data as a data analyst in Power BI, you need to know the real-time hub and how that works, how the streams are working, all that kind of stuff. So even though, as you say, Steph, it is analyst and then data engineer, there is an overlap in the exams tested. And the DB700 also contains things like governance and security and access control and all that kind of stuff. So DB600 is definitely for analysts, front ends doing data crunching, and DB700 is for I tend to call it people who move data. Just if you move data on a daily basis, pipelines, PySpark, notebooks, Custo, real-time intelligence, I don't know, then DB700 is your way to go. If you are visualizing data in a more visual appealing way, not that I'm trying to neglect it, because that's also very, very hard, then you are in the DB600 space, but you also need to know Power Query and no, not pipelines, but streaming data and Power Query and all that kind of stuff. So
I say go for both, right? Why not? They're free right now.
Exactly. Yeah. Go. So we have 10 minutes left, perhaps only 9 now. So if I'm really, really geeky and really, really nerdy, and I'm using a Linux machine on my daily basis, can I still do the Proctoring exam back in my office?
In your office. Do I need to use MS-OS for the exam? No, you just need a browser, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's all you need. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, everybody's in luck. As long as you have a browser, you can take the exam.
Exactly, because the Proctoring exam that you do back home in your office or wherever you are is actually just a small application that you download from a browser, and then magic happens. I don't know how it works, but it happens. So.
All right, and then I have another question for you, Brian. What do you think about how valuable are the exercises in Microsoft Learn?
Ooh, I like them because they are challenging. They're actually challenging your way of thinking to a way in which Microsoft wants you to understand the questions in the real exam. Even though the practice assessment and the knowledge check and all that kind of stuff is not the wordings and the question structure that you get in the real exam, it still twists your mind to understand what is Microsoft trying to achieve with this question. So I really, really like the exercises from Microsoft Learn. And if you have, I can't remember the DB600 and the DB700 in details for the Microsoft Learn for the modules, but if you have a lab and they suggest you to run through those labs, go do that, because those are highly valuable to get your hands dirty, try things out, even though it might be just click, next, finish, something, you will still learn from it. Use your time to go through the labs, go through the exercises, because they will give you some background knowledge that you might find good to bring in your backpack when you do the exam.
Yeah, I feel like those lab exercises in the modules are the most valuable part, at least for me, because I really need to get the hands dirty, like you said, to really get it to stick in my brain.
Exactly. And to stick it in the brain was stick to the brain. Sorry. People learn differently, right? So some people might learn by reading, some people might learn by doing, and some people might learn by speaking or drawing or something. The important thing is that you learn in the way that you learn the best. So transition from Microsoft Learn, if you want to draw it out, read it from Microsoft Learn, then draw it out. Just make sure that you learn it, because you can't bring notes, you can't bring your phone, you can't bring anything other than what you get during the exam. Even though you do it on your own laptop, that laptop is locked down with the software, the magic. So you only have access to the questions and Microsoft Learn. So you can't bring anything else than your mind. One small note, though, you might want to, if there are specific areas where you say, I'm really, I have struggled remembering what this is. There's no one telling you can't read that. Print it out. If it's 2 pages or 4 pages, print it out. Read it 5 minutes before you enter the room or before you start the application to have a Proctoring exam. Read it 2 or 3 times. And when that exam starts and the camera starts and the application starts, no one is stopping you from writing that down on a new notebook, on a new notepad. That's also a trick to do. If there's stuff you have troubles remembering, read it once or twice just before the exam. When the exam starts, write it down.
I would also add on to that, if there is something that you have trouble remembering, that's a great candidate for something to practice navigating to and learn.
Yes.
So you won't get stuck, trying to figure out, oh, how do I find this and learn? Practice finding that thing and learn without, a search engine.
Yes.
And that way, if you get that question, you'll know exactly where to go.
Sure, exactly. And speaking of go, we are almost on time.
Yes.
I saw. So I think we need to call out once more for our moderators,
Absolutely. Yes.
because you and
Thank you
we are
so
just sitting
much.
here chatting about funny stuff on slides, whereas our moderators, they're doing the hard job answering all the questions. So
Yes. So Chris and Drizzle, thank you so much. I'm sure that your job was much more difficult than ours. So thank you for answering all the questions.
Perfect. Anything else you would like to say on the last minute, Steph, to your audience? Anything? Just
I think I'm really grateful to Microsoft for organizing these. I think these are such a great way to help people prepare for these tests. They are hard. They are intimidating. So thank you to Microsoft. Thank you to the moderators. And I'm so happy people joined today to get their questions answered. So thank you to all of you too.
Yeah, and keep an eye out on the Reactor site, because even though we have a schedule until mid-June, you might also find other interesting sessions on the Reactor site, and because it streams almost every week for anything that you might find interesting, and also the archive on YouTube is also very interesting and valuable for new knowledge. So yeah, I think that's it, Steph.
And so too. Yes. So thank you again, everybody.
Thanks to everybody, and wherever you are in the world, have a great day, evening, night, whatever you say, wherever you are. So thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you all for joining, and thank you to our speakers. This session is a part of a series. To register for future shows and watch past episodes on demand, you can follow the link on the screen or in the chat. We're always looking to improve our sessions and your experience. If you have any feedback for us, we would love to hear what you have to say. You can find that link on the screen or in the chat. We'll see you at the next one.